This is Gemara in Sotah Daf Yud Tes. Baruch Hashem, another incredible day in the world of the Daf, as we'll be concluding the second perek of Sotah. We're holding on the bottom of Yud Ches Amid Beis, approximately 10 lines from the bottom. The first word on the line is Ha. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, Zois Teiras HaKanais. Says the Gemara, continuing the procedure of the Sotah, Zois Teiras HaKanais. This is the Torah, this is the halacha of the Kanais, which literally means kina, which refers to jealousy. Melamed, what does this teach us? Sha'isha sha'isa v'shayna. This teaches us from the plural that if there's a subsequent kinui v'stira, if there was one warning, she's secluded. Another warning, she's secluded. What is the halacha? The halacha is that she has to drink each time. Each time has a separate din of being a Sotah. Says the Tanakama. Rav Yehuda Imer, says Rav Yehuda, Zois? No. Zois, this, in the singular. Shein Aisha Shaisa Vishayna. That a woman does not drink and then drink again. That we're never going to have the halachas of Sotah 2 times. A woman could only potentially drink once. That's what we think Rav Yehuda holds right now. And again, let's just point out before we begin, really where the Gemara is going to come from, it's the difficulty between Zois and Toiras. Toiras and Zois are a little bit stiras, we could call them. That Toiras usually refers to more than one, Zois refers to one, therefore trying to reconcile the two of them. So the Tanakama seemingly teaches us that she'll drink multiple times. And Rav Yehuda says, no, she's only going to drink one time. Amar Rav Yehuda, says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda, Maisa, there was a story. And Nochanya Chayfer Shichin, Nochanya, the digger of Shichin, of ditches, testified, Sha'isha Sha'iseh, that the woman drank, Vishayna, and she drank again. V'kibalnu edusai b'shnei anashim avaloi b'ish echad. Says the Gemara, but we only accepted his eidos with regarding to 2 different men, meaning if she got divorced from husband number 1, married someone else, the second husband was Mekaneh, the second husband warned her, and the second time she did seclusion, that's when we accepted his eidos, that there's going to be the din of Sotah for a second time. No. So that's really the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda. So now we're clarifying that when Rabbi Yehuda said that she does not drink 2 times, we're now explaining what that means is from one husband. But if there's a subsequent husband with a subsequent stira and kina, subsequent warning and seclusion, they would have to drink a second time. Which now is going to be shita number 3. Says the Chachamim, Eina isha shaisa v'shayna bein b'ish echad bein b'beis anashim. Say the Tanakama, no, a woman never is shaisa v'shayna. Whether it's one, whether it's multiple, this halacha never exists. So the third shita, the shita of we'll call them the Rabbanan Basraya, as the Gemara is going to refer to them, is going to be that this din of drinking multiple times never exists. Whether it's one husband, whether it's multiple husbands, it never makes a difference. A woman will only potentially have to go through the whole ordeal of a Sotah 1 time. Tanakama, so says the Gemara, according to Tanakama, Haksiv, Nami Haksiv, Zois. What do they do with the word Zois? Zois seemingly limits to only once, and Tanakama said it could be multiple times. And ask the Gemara further, V'Rabbanan Basrai, Nami Haksiv Teiras. According to the Rabbanan Basrai, that says they'll never drink 2 times. What do they do with Teiras? Which is in the plural. Amar Rava, Be'ish Echad, Ubayal Echad. Says Rava, one husband, one man, one suspected zayna, one suspected adulterer. Then there's no machlaikas. If it's one husband and the same person that's being suspected, then everyone agrees that she will not have to drink. There will never be a story of a Sotah 2 times involving the same husband and the same suspected person from Zinos. How do we know that? And this is Rava explaining how we'll reconcile all these 3 shitais with the psukim. Says Rava, we're going to know that for as we turn over to Yotes Amid Aleph. Says Rava, Dechsev, because the Torah says, Zais, that's what the word Zais limits, that if it's one husband, one suspected man, you'll never have 2 Sotas. On the flip side, Bishnei Anashim, Bishnei Bayalim, if there's 2 husbands and 2 suspected people from Zinos, then the opposite extreme. Everyone will agree that you could have a Sotah 2 times. Why? Dersev Tairas. That's what we do with the world Tairas. Keep ligi. What is the machlekes? Beish echad u'shnei abayalim or shnei anashim abayal echad. With 1 husband and 2 suspected men, or 2 husbands and 1 suspected man. That's the point of debate. Tanakama suffered that in this case, or these 2 cases, I should say, Tairas comes the Rabuye Kulu, that they'll all have a din of a Sotah 2 times, and Zais comes the Mute Yishachad Ubayal Echad, as we explained. For Rabbanan Basrai, the 3rd Shita Savri, Zais the Mute Kulu, Tairas the Rabu Yishnei Yinash Yishnei Bayalim, and Rav Yehuda, the middle Shita says Zais the Mute Tarti, Tairas the Rabu Tarti, comes to exclude and comes to include both. What are the 2? Zais the Mute Tarti, which is what? Ish Echad Ubayal Echad, Ish Echad Ushnei Bayal. Whether it's 1 husband with 2 suspected men, whether it's 1 husband with 1 suspected man, says Rav Yehuda Zais, only this one drinks, and in such a scenario you don't have to drink. Toiras the Rabuye Tarti, Shnei Anashim Ubayal Echad, Shnei Anashim Shnei Bayalim. Rav Yehuda learns that it's dependent upon what? It's dependent upon the Shnei Anashim. Once it's 2 husbands, in all scenarios you'll have to drink. Hadran Allah Chayam Evi Mirz Hashem, a fitting chazara is due on this incredible 2nd parak of Sotah as we dive straight in to the 3rd parak, the parak of Haya Noitel. We go from Haya Mevi to Haya Noitel, says the Mishnah, continuing the process of the Sotah and picking it up where we left off in the previous Mishnayis, which is the Karban Mincha. And most particularly, as the Mishnah will say in a moment, the Mincha that is being brought, as we all remember, in the Kfifa HaMitzris in the Egyptian basket. Says the Mishnah, he takes the Kohen takes the Mincha from the basket, Mitzris, the Egyptian basket, and place it inside the Kli of the Beis HaMikdash, al yada, and then he puts it in her hand. So now she, the suspected Sotah, is holding her Karban Mincha. And the Kohen places his hand underneath her hand, literally, and waves. He does the hanafa, the waving of the Karban. Now everyone who's wondering how could it be that a Kohen is going to be touching this woman's hand that seemingly is inappropriate, so many different pshatim that are going to be discussed. Some say it was an elderly Kohen, so there's nothing to suspect. Some say that the fact that they're performing the Sotah itself is the hecker. Some say it doesn't mean underneath her hands, it just means under the basket. They're both supporting it, and we'll leave it at that. Hinif vehigish, what happens? The Kohen does the hanafa, the waving, and then he brings it, the hagasha, to the mizbeach. Kamatz, he performs the 3 fingers, the kemitza, vehikter, and he brings it up on the mizbeach. V'hashar, and the remainder, as is done by all karbanos mincha, ne'achal lekoyhanim, is eaten by the kohen. Continues the Mishnah. Hayamashka v'achakach makif. He would give her, the kohen gives her the water to drink. The water in which we've already learned, they took the Megillah, the parchment, which the Parsha of Sotah was written on, placed into the water until all the text has dissolved, has disappeared, erased the Shem Hashem into the water. Then the woman would drink it. And then they would bring the mincha. Now, If anyone is wondering, it sounds like it just said that they brought the mincha. Now it says it again. The Gemara will pick up on that in a moment. Rabbi Shimon Aimer says the Mishnah, Shimon says, Makriv minchasa, then mashka. First they brought the karban, and then she would drink. Shenemar, how do we know this? Says Rav Shimon, va'achar yishkas isha zamayim. And the pasuk says that after she drinks the water, that's when the karban mincha is going to be brought. Im hishke va'achar chikriv minchasa. But says Rav Shimon, let's say they did it in the reverse, that she drank and then they brought the karban mincha. Says Rav Shimon, indeed it is kishera. So says the Gemara, let's begin with the first part of our Mishnah, which is the din of hanafa, which is the din that the kohen is taking out the karban mincha, placing it into the kli shares, placing it into the hands of the Sotah, and then performing the hanafa, the waving. So Amar le Rabbi Elazar le Rabbi Yeshaya. As you begin the Gemara on Yotes Amid Aleph, Rabbi Elazar says to Rabbi Yeshaya, the Rabbi Yeshaya of his generations, there were multiple Rabbi Yeshayas, so the Gemara hones in that it was Rabbi Yeshaya that lived in the same time period as Rabbi Elazar. Loi teisev akarech, do not sit down, ad mefarshele la'milsa, till you explain to me the following din, menayin leminchas Sotah sheteuna tenufa. Where do we know this din? Where does the din in our Mishnah come from that the mincha Sotah, this karban mincha, that the Sotah is bringing, requires tenufa, needs to be waived? Says the Gemara, minalan, what do you mean? Ve'enif ksivba. It says ve'enif, which means that it has to be waived. So what's your question? So says the Gemara, you know what the question was? B'bailin minalan. Where do we know that it's waived by the bailim? Or more particularly, in this case, the bailim is the woman. So explains the Gemara, Asya yad yad mishlamim. We learn out yad for the karban shlamim. Ksiv acha, it says over here by the Sotah, v'lokach kohen miyad isha, and the kohen takes in the hand of the woman. Ksiv asam, and it says by the shlamim yadav tiviena, with her hands she brings the karban, and then she has the anafa, the tenufa makan kohen, aflal and kohen. So in both scenarios, we see it has to be the kohen and the bailim. How could you have both the kohen and the bailim performing the same action of hanafa? The kohen places his hands under the hands of the bailim, like we explained, and performs the tenufa. And we continue 10 lines to the bottom of the two dots. Chasa, quoting the second half of the Mishnah. Says the Gemara, the diak that we pointed out when we read the Mishnah, Ha'akrava, I don't understand. The Mishnah just said that the kohen brings the karban, then she drinks, and now the Mishnah is saying that he brings the karban again. They already brought the karban mincha. Answers the Gemara and explains, Hachi kamar, Seder minacha is ketzid. What is the seder of the karban mincha? Hey, nefehigish kamatz vehektir v'ashar nechal koyanim. They do the tenufa. They bring it to the mizbeach. They do the kemitza. They bring it on the fire. The remainder is eaten by the kohen. Ubehashka gufa pligi Rav Shimon v'Rabbanan. And the din of hashka, the din at what precise moment the kohen gives the woman to drink. That detail, that is the machlokes. The Rabbanan savri mashka v'achar makriv es minchas. The Rabbanan hold that what first he gives her to drink, and only then does the kohen bring the karban mincha. For Rav Shimon savar, no, makriv es minchas v'achar mashka shenemar. Where does Rav Shimon get this from? The pasuk that says v'achar yashke. That after he gives the woman to drink. So even though in the Mishnah, the chronological order of the Mishnah seemed to repeat to the bringing of the karban mincha, explains the Gemara, no, that is the machlokes Rabbanan and Rav Shimon when the drinking of the mei Sotah is done, whether it is pre or post bringing of the karban mincha. We continue on the last lines of Yotes Amid Aleph. The Gemara quotes the end of the Mishnah, that Rav Shimon teaches us that even though Rav Shimon held that really first comes the mincha and then comes the drinking. But says Rav Shimon, ve'im hishke. But if she drank first and then brought the carbon mincha, that is okay as well. So says the Gemara as we turn over to Yites Amid Beis, Tanu Rabbanan. Where did Rav Shimon get this from? Vehishke. It says in the pasuk that he gives the woman to drink. What do we learn out from there? The pasuk already said. Vehishke. The pasuk already taught us. The pasuk already said Vehishke that he gives her to drink. So why does he repeat? Says the Gemara, Shem Nimcha Megillah Vaimeris Eini Shaisa. Let's say she gets cold feet. They erase the Megillah. They erase the Shem Hashem. And then she says, Eini Shaisa. I don't want to drink. What do we do now? So now we have this vial with water, with dirt, with the Shem Hashem in it. But she doesn't want to drink it anymore. So what do we do now? Says the Braisa, Ma'arin Oisa, Mashkin Oisa. We force her to drink the water. Baal Karcha Divrei Rabbi Akiva. First opinion of the Braisa, Rabbi Akiva says, we force her to drink the water. Rav Shimon Oimer, says Rav Shimon, Va'achar Yashke. Says Rav Shimon, no. And after, says the Torah, and after he gives the woman to drink, Matam Ulaymer, what do we learn out from there? V'alokvar Namar Vehishke. But the pasuk already said that he gives her to drink. Ella, we learn out from here. La'achar kol maisim kulim ha'amurin lamala. What does the pasuk repeat? Va'achar yashke. For the pasuk repeats it to teach us that after everything has been performed, what does that mean? Explains Rav Shimon in the Braisa. Magid, this teaches us 6 lines down. Gimel dvarim ma'akvin ba. There are 3 stages that are ma'akiv for the drinking. What are the 3 stages? Meaning that if these 3 things are not done, then she would not have to drink. Number 1, ad shaloi karav hakaimitz, before the kamitza was done. V'ad shaloi nimcha megillah. Number 2, before the megillah was erased. And number 3, v'ad shaloi tekabel of shvua, before she accepted herself the shvua. Says the Gemara, let's understand these 3 conditions. Actually, before the Kemitza was done, where does this come from? Says the Gemara, Rav Shimon L'taimei. Rav Shimon goes according to his reasoning, Damar Makav as Minchasa. Says Rav Shimon, first you bring the carbon, and then V'aycher Mashka. That's condition number 1. Condition number 2, Achal Nimcha Megillah. Before the Megillah, the Parsha of Sotah was erased. Elamai. Mashka, says the Gemara, 1 second. If our brains were on, we'd be thinking, wait, if the Megillah wasn't erased, then what can you give her to drink? That makes no sense. The Megillah is erased in the water, and then she drinks. So if they didn't erase the Megillah, what is she going to drink? Amar Rav Ashi, explains Rav Ashi, Loi Nitzurcha. This comes to explain L'sherishumai Niker. It means that the Megillah was erased, but there's still some letters eligible on the Megillah, as we've learned yesterday or the day before, that you had to write with ink that's able to be erased on parchment that's going to be erased. So what happens if you did all of that, but then after you place it into the water, the text, the ink did not fully erase, and it's still a little bit left over. The Roisham, the imprint is still discernible. So in such a case, the Sotah would not be allowed to drink until the text is completely erased. And finally, what was condition number 3? Or approximately 13 lines down, the first word on the line is L'sherishumai Niker. Condition number 3 is Ad shelo tekabel alav shvua, before she makes the shvua. Mishto d'lo shasya, explains the Gemara that she would not drink before she accepts the shvua. Ha-michtav kasvila, but the kayin would be allowed to write, seemingly, the scroll, write the parsha before she says the shvua. Really? Is that true? V'amarava, but Rava taught us, Megillah said that shekas v'kodim shetekabel shvua, lo yasav alei klum. So says the Gemara, the 3rd condition is difficult to understand. Answers Gemara, you're right. Kidei nazba. The 3rd condition is not really necessary, because it is true that you're not allowed to write the Megillah before she takes the shvua. So now, says the Gemara, we have a brewing machlokes between Rav Shimon and the Rabbanon. So says the Gemara, "B'mai kamifligi," what exactly is the impetus? What is at the forefront of this machlokes? So says the Gemara, "Tlasa karoi ksivi." There are 3 psukim that we find. Pasuk number 1, v'hishke kama. As we already mentioned, the Torah says v'hishke 2 times. So the first time it says v'hishke. From there we look, v'hishke kama, v'achar yashke. Then it says v'achar yashke a second time, v'hishke basra, and then it says v'hishke a second time. V'hishke, v'achar yashke, and then v'hishke again. So Rabbanan Savri, how do we darshan up these 3 psukim? V'hishke kama l'gufa shamashke v'achamakar v'esamin chas. The first v'hishke teaches us the din, that you first drink, and then what do? And then you bring the karban mincha. V'achar yashke, the second pasuk, mi ba'alei l'shari shumay nikar, as we've already learned, that if the rasham, if the imprint is nikar, is recognizable, she's not going to be allowed to drink. Vishke basram, what's the third vishke coming to teach us? Shenimcha ka Megillah, that if they erase the scroll, vaymeres eini shaisa, and then she says, I do not want to drink. Ma'arin aisa mashkerasav al karcha. At that point, says the Tanakama, once it has been erased, once the Shem Hashem has been erased, she no longer can say, I don't want to drink. Now we force her to drink. Now, of course, we parenthetically point out, if at any moment she admits that she committed the crime, of course we don't make her drink. When the Gemara says that she says, I don't want to drink, we force her to drink, what that means is, if she's claiming innocence, but she doesn't want to drink. If she says, you're right, I'm guilty, then we have no reason to kill her and make her drink. But the only case by us is when she doesn't want to drink, but she's not admitting guilt. That is the Tanakama. For Rav Shimon Zavar, Rav Shimon argues, V'achar yishke legufa shemakridim nechas v'achar mashke. The v'achar yishke comes to teach us that you first bring the karban and then she drinks. Vishke kam, and the first vishke teaches us shemishke v'achar minchas k'sheir, as we saw in the Mishnah, that even though you're first supposed to bring the karban mincha and then drink, if you do it in the reverse order, it works as well. And vishke basra teaches us shemimcha kamegillah va'amra ini shaiseh. And the third one, the second vishke, the third pasuk teaches us that if they erased it and now she says, I don't want to drink, ma'arin oisa umashkin asab al karcha, we force her to drink. The Rabbanan, says the Gemara, so why do the Rabbanan disagree with Rav Shimon? Explains the Gemara, b'di'avad loy pasach kra. The Rabbanan hold fundamentally, the way that you, Rav Shimon darshan, is learning that the pasuk is starting with the b'di'avad. Say the Rabbanan psukim do not begin with a b'di'avad, psukim begin with a lechatchila, and that is the reason why the Rabbanan disagree with Rav Shimon. So now, says the Gemara, let's go back to the brayso we just quoted for one more moment, 5 lines from the white lines, and let's delve into this din for one last minute. Says the Gemara, in the previous brayso, we said that Rav Akiva is of the opinion that we can force her to drink. Asks the Gemara of Atani, we learned in a brayso, Rav Yehuda Kalbush Albar Zamatil Teichliya. Says Rav Yehuda, they put an iron bar into her mouth. Said that if after we erase it, she says, I don't want to drink, then says Rabbi Yehuda, we force her to drink. But Amar Rabbi Akiva, he argues, and he says, what's the whole purpose of drinking? The purpose of drinking is to check if she committed a crime. And says Rabbi Akiva, her clear not wanting to drink is the greatest admission that she committed the crime. Because why else wouldn't she drink? Says Rabbi Akiva, before the kemitza is done, then they can back out. But cannot back out. So what do we see in this brayso? We see that according to Rabbi Akiva, that even after the Megillah is nimchek, even after the scroll has been erased, she still is able to be chayzer and not to drink the water. And this is a stira, because a moment ago we saw that Rav Akiva holds that the moment that the Megillah is erased, there's nothing more that she can back out, and she has to drink the meisaita. So says the Gemara on the second white line, but according to you yourself, how are you going to learn Rav Akiva? Tikshilai Gufa, going to the Bryce itself, it's a contradiction. First, it says, it says once they brought the Kamitza, then she can't back out. Why not? That same Svara of Rav Akiva, which is anytime she's refusing, that means she is guilty, should also say she shouldn't drink then. So explains the Gemara, Loi Kasha, Hadika Ba Machmas Resisa, Hadika Hadra Machmas Briusa. Says the Gemara, there's two ways that this woman could retract from drinking. One is Resisa, she's afraid, and one is Briusa, is that she's holding her own. And the different ways of her retracting will be the way to us to know, is she admitting or is she just being stubborn? Vachi Kamar explains the Gemara. If she's doing it, that she's holding her own, then she's not going to drink at all. Not that she holds her own. If she's doing it because she doesn't want to do it, we see that she's scared, then what? Because that means that she's guilty, and that means that we're not going to let her drink, because there's no reason to kill her for no reason. Shtisa machas resisa, excuse me. Machmas resisa. But if we see that she's doing it, but not that she's admitting that she seems to be stubborn, then it depends on when she refuses. Actually, before they did the Kemitza, the Katel Imchlik Megillah, at this point the Megillah was not erased yet, or Inami Imchlik Megillah, the Megillah was erased, they should din Avad, that shows us that the Kohanim, the Machki, that the Kohanim were incorrect, they erased the Megillah, then Matzi Hadrabeh. But Mishkarav HaKoimet, din Avad Kohanim, the Machki, but once they did the Kemitza, they did the right thing, then Loi Matzi Hadrabeh. So we're seeing that within Rav Akiva, we're going to stop over here, that within Rav Akiva, there's two ways of the woman holding back. If she's doing it because we see that it shows that she's guilty, then we won't force her to drink. But if she's doing it because she's stubborn, then it'll depend on the time that she refuses. And the truth is, in the top of Chaf and Aleph, we don't have the page in front of us, but the Gemara then says, now these two brises are stiras. Kasha Rav Akiva, Hasamar Mechika Makva, Vachamar Kaimetz Makva. We see that there's two precise points according to Rav Akiva. Is it the Kemitza, the moment that the Kohen takes the three fingers, or is it the Mechika? Says the Gemara, you're right. Trey Tanaya, leave it to Rav Akiva. There were two different Tanayim that explain the sheet of Rav Akiva. We'll pick it up from here in the next year. B'siyata Dishmaya.